You are tuning in to the Atlanta REALTORS Rundown, the official podcast for the Atlanta REALTORS. We're here to keep you updated with the latest trends, topics, and keep you in the know of our ever-changing Atlanta market. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Atlanta REALTORS Rundown, the official podcast of the Atlanta REALTORS Association. We discuss the business of real estate, life of being a realtor, and all things Atlanta Real Estate Association. I'm your host, Andy Payne, and today we're here with the new 2025 president of the Atlanta Realtors Association, Chris Burell. So let's just get started and talk a bit.
Thank you, Andy. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. So I've got some questions, obviously. Not everybody's going to know you. So first, tell me about how your life, how you became to be a realtor and where you're from and all those kinds of things.
Awesome. Well, I grew up a military brat, so I was fortunate to get to travel up and down the East Coast. My dad was Coast Guard, and so I had the privilege to get to experience life in a lot of different cities and towns across this great country. From there, I went to Auburn University War Eagle. I was there for undergrad and grad, and my background is actually in public administration and nonprofit management. So I have a master's in nonprofit management. Oh. And I actually initially thought my career was going to be with the federal government. I started here in Atlanta in human resources for the Social Security Administration.
Oh, wow. Fun times.
Woo, fun times is right. So, after about 4 years there, I realized that wasn't really in the cards for me to have that as a career forever. And so I began to look around at what I enjoyed and aspects that I felt I was good at. Uh-huh. And real estate was one of those components because initially at Auburn, I started in architecture.
Oh, okay.
So, the design aspect of it, development was really important to me and had always been a passion of mine. And so the real estate brought this great opportunity to bring some of those passions back to life.
So you know what a mansard roof is?
Yes,
or what
I do.
A corbel?
I do. I do.
That's
all
cool.
Of those details.
That's awesome.
So as I began to think about a transition in my career, I, like many of our members, had to take an online real estate course. Mm-hmm. And to really start my, real estate license online and through the school process. And I went into the sales side at a great company here in town and was with them for 11 years all total.
11 years, okay.
And in that company, I didn't just do sales. I moved on to become their training director and then later into a managing broker role. And since then, I've had the opportunity to work at a couple of great companies as either their managing broker or qualifying broker for their agents, our members. So that's really what got me to this point in real estate.
So for those people who don't know, what's the difference between a realtor, associate broker, a managing broker, a qualifying broker, right? Different jobs,
sure.
Right?
So we're all realtor members, right? Regardless of what our licensure here in the state of Georgia may say we are, from a license standpoint, we are all under the same blue R.
Okay.
But when it comes to the difference, we have sales license, and those are sales associates who have their real estate license and have completed their pre-license and post-license. And then we have associate brokers licenses, or known as broker license if you're looking at your broker license. And that achievement occurs when someone has chosen to go back after 3 years. Yep. Right. Or 5 consecutive years, I should say, and obtain their broker's license here in Georgia. And then in most of our brokerages that are members with us, they typically have management. So in an office, a lot of our companies have a managing broker.
Right.
And so that managing broker is by title in that company, but different companies may require different licensure to have that role.
Right.
And then a qualifying broker here in Georgia, each brokerage house has to designate a broker licensee that is your qualifying broker. And in
that's
essence,
for the whole state.
That's for the whole state.
For that particular brokerage.
For that particular brokerage.
Gotcha. So not brand
or from that
necessarily.
franchise.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
there's many franchised offices under the same broker brand.
Right.
And so in those cases, you're going to have a qualifying broker, and that broker is the one who holds your license.
So you're the one the buck stops with you.
It is.
If there's some kind of situation or something, right?
It is, yeah.
Right.
And that's a huge responsibility, and it's something I don't take lightly, but it also gives me a different perspective on what our members and even our broker members are experiencing on a daily basis.
Sure. So how did you get involved with the Realtor Association? Did you start day one, or did you gradually dip your toe in?
So believe it or not, I in 2004, 2005, I think is when I obtained my license, and I became a member immediately. But I really didn't get into the volunteer side until a year later.
Yeah.
Really getting my business going and up and running. And then I had a great mentor, Martha Hayhurst, who saw potential in me as a volunteer that could give back to our industry. And she's the one who challenged me to join a committee here.
What was your first committee? Do you remember?
The first committee here was professional development.
Okay.
And it was also what I joined at GAR.
Now, but that was before you were a training person for your brokerage, right? You just had a passion for that.
I had a passion for training and for learning and for development.
Okay.
And so that's really what drove me to join those two committees, both at the state level and our association level.
Yeah. So now, as president of Atlanta Realtors Association, how long has been your journey and how did you kind of progress through the ranks? Because a lot of people don't understand, what it takes and the time commitment that you have given to reach this. You don't just run and get elected, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We look for leadership here at ARA that has experience within the association. And so, for me and for many of the leaders who have come before, they've served in many of the committees. In some of the committees, we've served as committee chairs or vice chairs leading those committees. And then from that experience, you oftentimes are tapped to move further up in the organization. And those opportunities include things like a vice president role for the association, and to also serve as a representative of our association at the state and national level as well.
Right.
And so for each president, there's a different journey. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah.
It's not all the same journey.
Right.
It's but for me, it's taken almost 20 years.
Wow.
To work through the different committees and the different positions as vice president. We have 4 all total on our executive committee. And then you become president-elect, and so you still serve 1 year serving under the president, and then it becomes your year to lead.
Yeah.
And I would not change that for the world, because there's so much you learn each and every year.
Right.
From the members, from the work you put in. And it is all volunteer.
Yeah.
It is a time commitment, but it's also some of the best relationships I have started here at ARA.
I know. I think that for me, that was kind of an eye-opening part of becoming a member of the association, is that we're all friends.
Yeah.
We're all competitors.
That's right.
But we're all friends, and making those friendships, it makes deals and situations better. It makes everything more fun. And even if somebody has to win or somebody has to lose in a different situation, we can walk away from it usually and still be great friends. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I first met you when I was going through Emerging Leaders.
That's correct.
And you teach a class. Can you talk about that a little bit, and a little bit about the way life coaching, I guess you could say?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to my real estate and real estate responsibilities, I have been an executive coach since 2006.
Okay.
And so I typically, in my free time, have served, a multitude of clients over the years, ranging from CEOs to salespeople in real estate. And so I have had the pleasure to be certified by John C. Maxwell, who, if you don't know him, check him out. He's got 96 books that he's written on leadership, on every aspect of it. But the class that I enjoy doing for what we now call emerging leaders,
Right.
it has been several leadership names leading up to it.
Yeah.
But it is now called the Emerging Leaders. And the class that I get to do in conjunction with Cynthia now, Lippard, who's another past president, is a class where we incorporate the DISC program and the results from DISC for each participant, in addition to this conversation around leading people and understanding that you have different people sitting at the table that you're leading.
Right.
And that they're not all carbon copies, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's different ideas. And to your point, you know, there's different competitors, right? We work at different companies, but here, when you're at the association, the companies go away, and we're all here for a common good.
Right.
Which is to help, you know, our members and to help serve our public and to fight for those private property rights.
Yeah.
And so that course really helps us teach the participants and emerging leaders the concept of how do you navigate those tough conversations in board meetings, in committee chair meetings, and also how do you navigate them with your clients and with co-op agents. And so that's part of what I love to give back, is my passion for helping other leaders grow and blossom and finding ways to extend their passions through the channels that we have here at ARA.
Yeah. Well, I liked it specifically because it helps you know yourself too. You take this assessment, it's all these random questions, and then all of a sudden it comes at the end and it's like, you are a party person.
Yes.
You like this, you like this, you
That's
like
right.
this. Or you are a driven person. You
That's
like
right.
this, you like this, you like this. Or you like safety. And, you know, and knowing it about yourself, those characteristics and those little sub characteristics, it really helps you kind of, I think, open your mind to your communication style and how others may perceive you, you know, as well. So it's big.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point. And one point that we try to drive home in the class is that we don't want you to try to become someone else when you're trying to meet someone where they're at. Instead, we want you to know what your strengths are and what gifts you can bring to the table, so that then we're able to help you learn how to navigate those other personalities that live in our world with us.
Yeah. So of all your committees that you've done, do you have a favorite committee? Or is there like one that you just thoroughly ran it as committee chair and just were it was your favorite thing?
I would say for each committee there were favorite things.
Okay.
And favorite events. You know, when I think about trade show, which is now Showcase, it was trade show when I was on it. You know, at that time it was a huge trade show.
Yeah.
And getting to see the different speakers and the different events. For professional development, it has always been something that's near and dear to me. Seeing our members be able to develop and be better in their business. When I think to our social committee and bringing our members together in those opportunities, and then to our community outreach committee, you know, where we're raising funds and giving back to the communities that we call home and that we make our living in.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Most realtors are some of the most charitable people, some of the most involved in their community, because homes, property ownership, neighborhoods, restaurants, what do you do, schools, it all ties into, you know, you're living your life in a home.
That's right.
So I know we just had a little report on kind of how 2024 looked. How do you see, I guess, what did we do in 2024 as far as community outreach? Again, a lot of people don't realize how many opportunities we have to serve.
Right.
What would be like your top 2 or 3 things that how we've helped our community?
Well, I
our
think
communities?
There are several things. So we have been able to donate through our committees, 30,000 to community programs that are outside of real estate. So that's just to those community programs that stand outside of real estate specific type items. Then we have had devastating storms, both in our state and in other states, where we were able to collectively donate over 60,000 to relief efforts in both our state and other states that were hit by several of the hurricanes recently. And so that was something that our members contributed to and we were able to do. And so I think when you talk about that, there's so many smaller projects going on. That doesn't include the number of hours that we have volunteered at nonprofits within nonprofits that we sanction, meaning we endorse, and then our members volunteering in nonprofits that are passions they love.
Right.
And so I think to your point, it just quadruples. Like everyone who takes a few hours of their month each month to donate to some activity in their community, and also our committees that do fundraising to fund some of those activities.
Right.
It's a collective effort.
Yeah.
And so to single out one specific one in 2024, I think it's important to highlight all of them.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It is a lot of outreach and passion projects and special little things that people like, even if it's just informal.
That's right.
You get 15 or 20 people together and all of a sudden you get a lot done, as opposed to the formal official things that we do as well. But a lot of people don't, agents and the consumers and the public, I would say, don't understand that, when we give to the Atlanta Realtors Association, it's not just to have a big pretty building.
No.
Right? That's the least thing it's about.
That's
really,
right. That's right. We want a place for people to be able to come and for our members to be able to come. And we have a phenomenal building.
Sure.
But to your point, it's really being part of the fabric of our communities. And one thing I have learned over the last 20 years is that every member that I have engaged with, each one of them contributes to their community outside of just helping families buy and sell homes. And I've been very humbled by that reality.
Yeah. Of course, I believe that the helping people buy and sell homes in and of itself is such a worthwhile endeavor.
Absolutely.
Because it's the biggest thing anyone ever purchases, unless they have got a yacht or a plane.
That's right.
and it's your life.
Correct.
So many aspects of your life are wrapped in around your home. So just that part of our job is important, but going above and beyond is even makes it even better.
Well, and I can tell you, growing up as a military brat, home symbolized a lot for us. Because it was also your safe haven. As a new person in a new community, not knowing anyone, not having those safety nets of friendships, you were always starting over. Home for us was a safe haven.
Gotcha.
It was a place to be able to know that we could retreat to until we were able to nurture and build those new relationships.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, it has had a multitude of meanings in my life over the years.
So you ended up in Atlanta before you went to college, or how did your which I don't want to say which cities have you lived in, but
correct.
But yeah, what's your tie to Atlanta?
So I was in high school in Washington D.C. Metro. Okay. So the DMV for those members who have lived in that area. And when I graduated, my extended family lives in Columbus, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
And so I wanted to come home to spend time with them. And so I chose to come back to Auburn University to be able to have my undergrad and grad. And so by doing that, I was able to spend the last years of life with my grandparents, of which I've lost all of them over the last years. But had I not come home
quote unquote,
spend time with them, I wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Gotcha.
And so as I finished up college, one of the business opportunities was here in Atlanta.
Okay.
To work for the Social Security Administration.
Yeah.
And so it afforded me to be close enough to home, but far enough away from home that there wasn't that comfort safety net, that I had to make it on my own. And so that's where Atlanta became my home.
I gotcha.
And I've been here ever since 2002. So it truly is the place that I have lived the longest in my life.
That's great. That's great. So looking forward to the rest of 2025, right? What challenges do you see us facing as an association, us as realtors? Like, what are you thinking about as far as those kinds of things as we go forward?
That's a loaded question.
I know it is. It is.
I don't want to dance around the noise that is in everyone's ear. We know that our national association has been in the news.
Yep.
We know that there have been substantial topics around a national settlement that we all as members participate in as Realtor members.
Right.
And that decision, by the time this recording goes live, will have been made one way or the other by the courts.
Right.
In addition to that, we've had a less than stellar year in Metro Atlanta for home sales.
Just the number of homes.
For the number of homes being sold.
Right.
And so that has impacted our members' livelihood in, what they are making this year and this coming year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what business is in their pipeline.
Right.
And so over the last 20 years, what I've learned is that our members are everything. And so we have to pause. We have to use this year to really reach out and understand where our members are at and try to meet them where they're at.
Right.
And we have to work to unite our members. Because
what do you mean by that?
I think a lot of them have a lot of unanswered questions related to the settlement issues, related to public opinion in general of realtors.
Right.
I think a lot of members have not been involved in all the conversations and don't necessarily have all the information that some of us who are involved at a higher level at ARA have had access to.
Right.
And so, when I say we need to meet them where they are, I also mean from a business standpoint. Are they struggling in their business? What are the skill gaps or the knowledge gaps that they need?
Yeah.
How can we provide resources and education opportunities for that?
Right.
And so that's one part of it. The second part of it is helping them find their voice again and allowing us to take back our story.
Yeah.
It seems of late that everyone from the news media to the attorneys involved in the NAR case on the other side are telling our story.
Right.
And we're not telling our story from the standpoint of what it means to walk in our shoes every day. And the value that we bring to our communities, not just to the transactions that we're involved in.
Right.
But to the overall communities. We just talked about the amount of volunteerism that we know is above the national average.
Well, and you're not supposed to brag on social media about things like that, right? That doesn't feel honest or it feels disingenuous if you build the Habitat for Humanity house just so you can post a selfie of you with the hammer, right?
That's right.
And so a lot of people, I feel like a lot of that work is done in the background and it's not talked about.
That's correct.
What's talked about is how expensive a house is, or the celebrity's home, or these kind of, it's not just about showing houses, right? It's not just about driving a fancy car up the driveway of a beautiful mansion. There's so much other work being done. Not at that level.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And, we live in a very fast-paced world. And we live in a curated world. In social media, in our newspapers, in our news feeds. And so being able to share those human aspects of who we are and how we serve is extremely important. And then there's a third component that we need to continue to build upon.
Okay.
That the leaders over the last several years have worked very hard to start, and that is continuing to be inclusive.
Yes.
And to bring more members to the table in all of these conversations.
Right.
Not just one topic. And, when I talk about inclusion, yes, I mean the typical categories that everyone thinks about. But I also mean the things like the single parents who are also our Realtor members.
Sure.
Who are facing different challenges than if you have a partner that you're able to navigate your business and these ups and downs in your income with. I'm talking about that person who maybe this was their career for the last 40 years and they're transitioning into this idea of what's the next chapter, right?
Yeah, right.
It's no longer just inclusion based on what we can see or hear.
That's a good point.
It needs to be something that we begin to incorporate into everything because we have members who represent every single walk of life.
Yeah. And every type of real estate business.
That's right.
There's commercial realtors, investors, second home people, developers, low-end properties, high-end property. Again, back to, all we focus on is the world focuses on is how much, the celebrity's house sold for.
Correct.
And those kinds of things. But again, that's a very, very small part of the total conversation.
Yeah. So I think those are the inward facing issues we're challenged with. And then the outward facing issues, we need to continue to protect property rights.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of states take action, and move forward with laws that can be in some states seen as discriminating against certain buyers. We have seen a lot of codes being brought forward to local governments where they're trying to limit the ability for homeowners on how they can use their property.
Oh, yeah.
And, how they can add value to their property. And so it's internal and it's also external.
Right.
Because we have to be the voice of our consumers as well.
And the political part, right? The legislative part is a big part of talk, at least at the association.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about, what we do and how important it is?
Sure, absolutely. So, we have to be a voice at the table. And we do that in a political environment through what we call RPAC. And so that is our political action PAC. And that's how we navigate and raise contributions to be able to further influence and help protect private property rights. And we do that by being able to utilize that money to get out messaging, but also to support candidates that feel the same way about property rights. And that's on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
So when we talk about RPAC, we talk about the color purple because we're not red and we're not blue.
That's right.
We don't get into those other aspects of politics. It's really focused on that. But it is extremely important, and our members contribute a great deal to RPAC.
Yeah.
And so just a couple of examples in the last 12 to 15 months, the squatter bill that came through the Georgia, State House. It was RPAC dollars at the state level, that were successful in helping lobby and really articulate to our legislators what and why we needed that.
Right.
Why landlords needed some protection, why homeowners needed that protection.
Yeah.
Because squatting had become an issue. So we had that. Land right usage related to who can buy land, especially farmland throughout Georgia, and especially if it's located near a military installation.
Right.
And how there are certain foreign entities that are no longer under our law allowed to do that.
Right.
Those were all things that we lobbied for.
Right.
And had a great deal of success, but we couldn't have done it without the support of RPAC, both at the local, state, and national level. And so that's a component that sometimes doesn't get talked about as much, but is a major tool for our members to be able to have a voice both locally and nationally.
Yeah, I believe the same thing. And, I think a lot of people think lobbyists, they think they're taking politicians to go play golf. Or they're taking politicians to some fancy dinner. But my time in the state capitol, it's just educating legislators on these really, really fine points that until you think about them, until you look at them through a specific lens, they don't even understand what the issue is because it might not be their pet project or the thing that they're concerned about.
That's right.
And so it's that face-to-face, voice-to-voice communication. Can I just talk to you for 5 minutes about this, that, or the other?
That's right.
That really, I've seen us at work to protect the rights of property owners and to also protect the profession of being a realtor. I always remember the local sales tax, local business tax.
That's right.
Situation we had a few years ago. But,
that's right.
But yeah, it's so important, and it's more than just a chili cook-off.
That's right.
Right. The chili cook-off's just a way.
That's the fun thing.
Yeah, that's the fun thing to get $10 a piece to all of a sudden
Sure.
be able to go and effectively communicate how we feel about issues
Sure.
and how it helps homeowners. So.
Well, and I think when you look at RPAC, sometimes members will say, I don't have a voice. And what I will say is you do have a voice, but it has to be a collective voice. And there are different donor levels that you can donate, and contribute to invest in RPAC. There's different investment levels, but what I encourage members to do is whatever you feel comfortable investing, do so.
Right.
Because as you become an investor and you learn more about the power of our collective voice, it allows you to then feel more comfortable continuing to invest more in RPAC and into the causes that we're fighting for.
Yeah, yeah. So in 2025, we talked about some of the challenges. What's your vision, or what are you most excited to try to change or bring about new, or continue something old? What's your thoughts there?
So I first want to acknowledge the years of leadership that have come before this year.
Yeah.
And each one of those leadership teams have done phenomenal things that have built and compounded over the years to where we're at now. I can tell our members that when I get to travel to the national conferences for the National Association of Realtors, when they hear that I'm from the Atlanta Realtor Association, it's just a barrage of questions. We are so respected.
Oh, that's great.
Throughout the nation as an association that's leading the way on so many fronts. And so I would say for moving forward, it's building upon the work that's been done first and foremost.
Yeah.
I think moving forward, there's a couple of things that we have to work on this year.
Okay.
In years past, we haven't had as many opportunities to bring more voices to the table, to let us share ideas about what is needed by our members and what is needed by our communities. So finding out what are those opportunities? Are they town hall meetings? Are they, collaboration sessions? Are they virtual webinars? How do we engage more of our members and really ask those tough questions of how can we be of service to them now in their business? And then that also goes for our public.
Right.
How do we continue to bring value to the general communities that we serve and the general public that we serve?
Well, and let them know about the value.
That's right.
Yeah.
And to share the things we're doing. We often joke and tell agents, don't be a secret agent.
Right.
Well, the same is true of our association. We need to be able to share the good news when it happens, to have those communication channels such as our podcast and our newsletters. But also, are there other opportunities even there?
Right.
To be able to share the message both internally and externally.
Yeah, because you mentioned noise earlier, right? There's a lot of noise. Hundreds of emails every day, it seems like. And if ours is one of them, right, it may or may that message or that little piece of information may not make it to a member or not. Right. But if we just keep broadening that scope, then more and more people can understand how they can get involved. And once you get involved a little tiny bit, all of a sudden somebody's like, "Hey, do you have a minute? Do you think you've got time to do this whole other thing?" Which is what's happened to me. I know it's what happened to you. Right. So many of our leaders, somebody voluntold them that they should do this thing or you should make this call or, and so, but it's so rewarding,
It really is.
Yeah. So, well, do you have any closing thoughts, any kind of state of the union address or anything you want to make? Or?
It's not so much a state of the union address, but it's more a commitment to our members. We are going to work tirelessly as a leadership team to help them find their voice, to help them navigate the new world we work in and live in. We're going to help our members begin to tell their story better.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's a commitment that they can hold us to. And this isn't about me, it's about us.
Right.
Because our leadership team, when I talk about our leadership team, is close to 65, members who make up our committee chairs, our vice chairs, our affiliated, groups that are part of our board of directors, not to mention the incredible staff behind the scenes. And so we are here to serve, and we intend to do that.
Yeah.
What we're asking our members to do this year more than ever is we're challenging them, come get involved. Just join a committee.
Yeah.
Make a commitment to come to one of our events if you haven't been able to do so in past years. Be part of the action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you do that, not only does it help you understand our industry, it creates amazing lifelong friendships with people that you may never otherwise meet.
Yeah.
And it also, there is power in us coming together and knowing that each one of us is not alone in this, but instead we're together in this. Yeah. Real estate can be lonely, ironically.
Yeah, right.
Because as real estate professionals, sometimes you're running your own business and you're not able to collaborate with as many people outside of that. You may co-op with them.
Sure.
You may hang out with them at sales meetings, but there's not that opportunity to always collaborate.
Yeah.
Whereas the association, I believe, offers that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
To really exchange ideas and concepts, and also to know you're going through the same thing that maybe someone else is, that you thought you were all alone.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for sitting down today.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to a great 2025. Atlanta Realtor Association President Chris Burell. Thank you for listening to the podcast today. Be sure and subscribe, leave us a review in the Apple Podcast app. That helps us reach more listeners like you because the Atlanta Realtors Rundown is the official voice of the Atlanta Realtors Association. If you've got any questions for Chris, for me, about today's podcast, if you've got ideas for future episodes, just reach out to us through the Atlanta Realtor Association or through any of our social media channels. We're everywhere. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Andy.
So until next time, let's stay positive and hug your favorite realtor.
That's right.
They need it.
That's right.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the Atlanta Realtors Rundown. Please subscribe, and for more information on how to get engaged, check us out at atlantarealtors.com. We look forward to having you join us for the next episode.